Could you say your name again a little louder, please?
Hailey Sinnen.
And what are you playing today, Hailey?
Estudio in C major by Tarrega.
Thank you.
Maybe not so easy when you're playing it
The
anymore?
bar and the B section,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think, yeah, for sure, we can totally look at that. Yeah, I was noticing, I think a lot of times you are kind of working around your hand to find positions that work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can find something that's like a neutral type of position for both your right and your left hand that I think will make it a little bit easier so that the movements that you're making to reach different positions or reach bars can feel maybe a little bit easier versus trying to find like different positions for each thing to kind of accommodate maybe like this feels more comfortable on this finger, this one feels better this way. So I think if we find something a little bit more neutral, then you're not going to feel like you have to be reaching to get to different notes. And I think it's kind of similar with your right hand. So I noticed that a lot of times you're trying to find some, I think, stability in putting like this part of your hand down to then reach for the thumb. But I think also we can find maybe something a little bit more neutral so that the stability in your hand can come, I think, a little bit more from like your thumb. And like preparing your thumb, having that ready, and kind of preparing your fingers before you even need them, so they're already like there and ready to pluck the string. So why don't we start with left hand? So a lot of times I notice your thumb is pretty high on the fretboard in the back. So for example, your wrist is like pretty in this way, and I think you're trying to find, maybe it feels more stable when you put your thumb in this way, but I think if you straighten your wrist a little bit, so instead of this way, and your hand is like this, it's just bringing it a little bit more this way, so that this part of your hand can be in line with the rest of your arm. And I think I could bet that if you just had your hand out in front of the guitar, even outside of the guitar, and you held it like this, you'll probably start to feel pretty tired and not natural. But if you held it like this, it'll feel a little bit easier to kind of hold and maintain. And I think that's good in guitar, to find something that feels neutral and stable so that we don't feel tired or like we have to be constantly moving. So I think, so put your hand down, and I would rotate it in like this, exactly, and then bring it up. So do you see how your wrist and your arm is really like nice in a straight, even line?
Mm-hmm.
And then that way your wrist doesn't have to bend this way or that way, it can be very neutral. Then you have a really nice curve on the fingers, and I think that really helps to find things that are like, you get to be more consistent and like playing on the tip of your finger versus other parts, and it won't get as tired, I think. And then right now, so your thumb is this way, so pretty straight this way. I don't think that that's a bad thing, but for me, I usually find a little bit more stability if I open my thumb, exactly, a little bit that way, exactly. So that when I'm holding the guitar, it's almost just like this position, and this is just kind of a very like easy and chill way to have your hand versus this or that or this, just kind of like a very gentle like claw shape a little bit. So can you try maybe just the very beginning? Exactly. And so I would just have my thumb a little bit more relaxed on the back. Your thumb is really there, I think, to give a little bit more stability. I don't want you to feel like to get the notes down, you have to squeeze, you know? So if you feel like you're using your thumb to squeeze, can you try to use more of the weight of your natural weight in your hand and your arm to press down versus doing this and squeezing? Exactly. Very, very good. So now that we've talked about all that, why don't we go to the part that feels a little bit more difficult with the bar, and can you show me what you're doing there? That part? So I think there is a similar thing to what you were doing with your thumb earlier, where you're kind of using this. Do you feel like you're squeezing with your thumb to get it? So I feel like that can maybe make the bar not always super steady, and maybe like some notes are more clear than others, because instead of like just using kind of this, where you're kind of like pushing down by weighing it down like with your arm. So for me, I'm trying to think like using this, and it's not that you have to bring it in, but just to the normal position that you have, but like use that to basically go this way. So it's not that you have to push back or any way or use this to kind of come in, but see, look at my arm. Here I'm just pressing with the thumb, and then here I'm taking this and I'm thinking as my fingers as just placed there, and then way down. So it's almost like it's coming from the arm and directing this way in with your elbow. And I feel it kind of like the shoulder is the first place that it starts, where it's just coming back down with weight instead of squeezing. So can you try that with your bar? And then here too, I would try to get a little bit closer to the middle of the fret. Also, if you're trying to be too on top of the fret, then it'll be a little bit less clear. Can you try to just put the bar by itself without anything else? Just on the first fret and okay, let go of your thumb completely. And just keep your thumb on the back, but let go. Relax these fingers, put the bar down, and then put weight down. So instead of thinking, I'm gonna put the same amount of pressure all over the bar, can you do an exercise with me where you go finger by finger and squeeze down and try to find the part in each string that you're putting down pressure on the bar. So let's start with the first one. And let go of this, just the finger. And don't do this, just gentle. Start with the first string here, then fifth. Try to find the little spot that presses down and can get the sound out. And now fourth. So instead of angling it, try to find it straight. Now the fourth string. So try to squeeze from the middle of your finger. And a little bit more weight in. So for me, for example, it's kind of in this part of the finger. Yeah, and now third. So I would try to almost, instead of this, of hooking it, making it almost too straight, so I have a little bit more tension, exactly. And then here, closer to the fret. And then finally, exactly. So do you feel like it's kind of like different parts of the finger across the fret? I think that applies to bars because if you try to put the same amount of pressure, I feel like the strings in the middle are always kind of going to be a little buzzy sounding. So I try to kind of extend my finger like that so that I can really get more tension on this part of my finger. And can you try just a little bit more in the middle? And instead of this way, can you try to do this in the finger? So it would just be trying to find a little bit more straight tension here and way down with your hand. Yeah, so I would say for when you're home and you're practicing, I would just try that and try to see what is the part of your finger that you're trying to press down so you can get the notes to come out really clearly. And I would say that it's, for me, a little bit easier to do it closer from the tip of the finger starting on the sixth string than here. I feel like I can't have so much control, so I would do it a little bit lower, using my thumb to give me stability in the back, but to way down so I can evenly put pressure all over the string. Yeah, and it's a skill that I think is pretty difficult and hard to do, but I think when you find where is the pressure for your hand specifically and your finger that works to do it, then it might be, I think you'll feel it out and feel like what is the part that is supposed to be down. So, and then here, for example, when you're doing the bar, there is like here in the third string, so you know that note you don't have to worry so much about. So can you just do that? Exactly. So for example, here if I was playing this bar, I wouldn't try to worry so much about getting these two notes. I will try to put pressure on the sixth string, the second one, and the top string. Exactly. And you don't have to worry about these two because you don't need them in the bar, right? So can you show me that one more time? Exactly. And then, so like for here, I would say keep practicing the bar to feel the different points of the pressure. But here, for example, you don't need the entire bar. You just really need sixth string, second, and first. Exactly. So once you straighten the finger, which I saw you doing, I think it helps get the spot that makes it come out. Exactly. Okay, great. So why don't we go now that I talked a little bit about left hand. For your right hand, what I would like you to do is try to find an anchor. And I think here a really good anchor would be to use your thumb and to have all of your fingers down. So why don't we try doing it without the left hand? So this would be called planting, where you basically put all of the fingers that you need down and prepared on the string before you even need to use them. So I would practice it this way, just P, I, N, A. Exactly. And then one time again, so. Exactly. And I think that helps to find a little bit of stability in practicing, where you have all of the fingers down and prepared. So, for example, here, if I was starting to play this, I would prepare my chord on my left hand and then prepare on the right hand. So can you try that with the first chord? Have all of your fingers down. Really good. And then here, I would reset it again. So all fingers down. Really good. And then here, I would add one more thing to help with a little bit of stability. So do you notice that when you come here, you don't have any part of your hand that is kind of like holding something down and letting you have a little bit of an anchor and a stability? So I think what I would do is I would do this. All fingers down. And then when I get to here, I would put my thumb down on the fifth string again. And that's going to do two things. It's going to give you stability for this part, and it's already going to be prepared for when you need to play it again. So can we try it just from here? And then put your thumb down on the fifth string. Yeah, very good. And then again. Yeah. Yeah, so do you see when you needed to play on the fifth string, you already had your thumb down? And then that's like one less thing that you have to worry about. And at the same time, it's helping you maintain an anchor here so your hand is not kind of reaching to play the string. It's already coming from a point that has more of a stable position, I think. Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay. So, okay, very good. Why don't we go from here and try the same thing? So do the full planting of P-I-M-A, but now with a sixth string. Yeah. So there, I would say be a little bit more aware of your left hand, because, for example, here, you're very high in your thumb. Can you try to do that with your thumb a little bit more behind than the fretboard? So instead of here, maybe it's back here. And then when you're coming back, instead of moving that there, go back to here and show me how your hand looked. So then when you go back here to F sharp, try to maintain the same way that your hand looks instead of trying to change it into something else. And then that way you kind of can maintain the same type of position when you go to here again. Okay, so now let's look a little bit at right hand. Can you show me again with the planting? And then thumb on the fifth string. And then prepare with your thumb here. Before, yep. Prepare again. Prepare fourth string here. Yeah, so I would say for the general things that I would like to send you home with is basically try to find more preparation. So when you're practicing this at home, I would make it like super exaggerated, even if you don't end up playing it this way. I think it'll be helpful that if you're practicing, full plant here. Plant. Full plant. Where you have your thumb down in some contact all the time, and here the same. And then full. So that you're always kind of anticipating and preparing it. And I think when you're doing that, you won't have to find yourself doing this with your hand or trying to find somewhere else on the guitar that's gonna give you more stability. And it's gonna feel, I think, a little bit like you have to move less and it's a little more safe. And then same thing with the left hand, where if you find yourself kind of reaching and doing things that feel a little bit weird or you're having to move a lot, then I would bring my hand down, bring it back up with like that straightness with my hand. And just use my thumb basically as another type of anchor in the back of the fretboard. Do you have any questions? Okay, really good job.